Tribe, I become invincible with my 10,000 times bonus from the start. Chapter 41, In the face of absolute strength, scheming is nothing but a joke. Unlike Li Cheng, the other players were stunned when they heard Peerless Prideful's words. Why was this not what they had expected? However, they soon discovered the problem. The various major guild alliances had gathered tens of millions of troops. Were they really here to support Li Cheng? Who was he talking nonsense to? Someone immediately said something. This group of union members are so sinister. They want to let Netherworld and the boss fight. Both sides will suffer losses, after that, they'll take advantage of us. If the boss wins, they won't make a move. The myth created by Netherworld will be destroyed. If Netherworld wins, it'll definitely hurt their vitality. When that time comes, they'll join forces and attack Netherworld together. The big guilds are really shameless. What if Big Boss Netherworld attacks the Alliance first? If Netherworld attacks first, he'll be judged by the system and will be blacklisted. Looking at the analysis of the chat box, the players understood the intentions of the big guilds. They started to curse at them. They had never seen such shamelessness. *CK, these bastards are really scheming. As expected of the Alliance guilds. Their interests are paramount. They can even use such a dirty method. Such a sinister method. Boss Netherworld won't fail miserably, right? Then, if he falls, will our quest reward still be rewarded? Among the big guilds, Peerless Prideful looked at the messages in the chat box and laughed smugly. This was the method that the big guilds had come up with together. By relying on public opinion and the boss, they could make Li Cheng face enemies from both sides. They could attack and retreat, but they could also defend. It was truly foolproof. They only had one goal. Today, their goal was to kill Netherworld there and then. They wanted to let the other players know that it was absolutely impossible for them to fight against the guilds by themselves. In the Rose Guild. Big sister, what should we do? Should we help Netherworld, or should we agree to the various large guilds' requests and cooperate with them? Guild leader, the Alliance guilds have sent another message over. Their next few million troops will arrive within half a day. For a while, the players from the Rose Guild were in an uproar. Some still supported Netherworld, while others suggested cooperating with the Alliance. In the end, all eyes were on Purple Rose. She was the guild leader, so the final decision was in her hands. Purple Rose did not say anything. She had always trusted her instincts. In the end, her beautiful face under the mask did not hesitate at all. She said seriously, "Everyone from the Rose Guild, get ready to start a war with Pride." As soon as these words were said, those who had originally supported Li Cheng cheered. "Roger. At most, we'll just go back after we die. What's there to be afraid of? Support Big Sister with pride." Seeing that their sisters were all like this, those who had originally supported Peerless Prideful also looked excited. Listen to Big Sister and *CK Peerless Prideful. I've long disliked them. I'll do it. Sisters, pay attention to your image. We're ladies. The movements of all the forces were clearly seen by Li Cheng. He was puzzled. Was there something wrong with the brains of these people? Where did these tens of millions of trash troops get the confidence to kill him? The corners of Li Cheng's mouth revealed traces of a cold smile. The plan was not bad. If the person who carried it out had the ability, then there would be nothing to say. However, without the ability, all the schemes were nothing but a joke in his eyes. Li Cheng turned his head and did not look at those people. He ordered, "Luna, do it. Lillian, I'll leave these lords to you." "Yes. Roger that." The two heroines started to move at the same time. Luna led all the elven frost marksmen and continued to advance toward the boss. Lillian, on the other hand, gently raised her slender, white arm that looked like a lotus root. Instantly, a grey fog appeared silently, making the heavenly knights disappear into the fog. In less than a minute, Luna's frost marksmen arrived in front of the boss. When the players saw this, their hearts were in their throats as they spoke one after another. At Netherworld, boss, please, don't start the boss fight or else you'll fall into a trap. At Netherworld, boss, if it can't work, we should retreat first. At Netherworld, boss, we're outnumbered, don't take the risk. Tisk, 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 is Netherworld a hothead? Can't he tell? Those union guilds are just waiting for him to start the boss fight. Sigh, looks like Netherworld's really going to be a flash in the pan, and the myth will end here. Naturally, Li Chang ignored the conversation in the chat box and continued with his plan. Under the gaze of countless players, Luna and the Frost Marksman entered the aggro range of the boss. Instantly, the players let out a wave of mournful wails. It's gone, it's all gone. At Netherworld, boss, why can't you see their intentions? This is the consequence of not listening to our advice. Seeing Luna and the Frost Marksman go straight to the boss, a hint of ecstasy flashed across Peerless Prideful's eyes. Everything was going according to his plan. It seemed that the legend Netherworld was about to end. However, at that moment, a system announcement appeared on the World Channel, which made all the players unable to believe it. Battle announcement: Viscount Netherworld, unstoppable, valiant, and fierce in killing the enemy, has successfully killed legendary Venomancer Walter. All units in the army will receive the war buff Brave Champions. Army morale plus 100. Everyone was stunned when they saw this announcement. What happened? The boss died just like that? What happened? F***ck, what happened? Didn't the boss have 100 million HP? I didn't see it clearly. Who recorded it? How did the boss die? Is there a bug? I think it was killed by Netherworld in an instant. Oh my god, that's a legendary boss with 100 million HP. It died in less than a second. Ridiculous, what kind of F***ing damage is that? 100 million HP. I'm 24 years old this year. If the boss stands still and doesn't move, I'd probably fight it until I'm 50 years old. No, you'll die immediately. It's a highly poisonous boss. If you touch the boss, you might not lose a single hair, but you'll be poisoned to death. Ha ha ha, that seems to be the case. Upon seeing this announcement, the players were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Some even pinched themselves to see if they were dreaming. After a full few minutes, some people finally recovered from their shock. To them, this was completely unimaginable at this stage. It was simply a fantasy. Chapter 42, Kill them all, not a single one left. In the Rose Guild. Purple Rose looked at the fallen boss with a stunned expression. She had not even lowered her arm. Just as she was about to give the order for the members of the Rose Guild to help Li Chang fight the boss was already lying on the ground. This Netherworld was a little too strong, no? The members of the Rose Guild also looked at Li Chang in shock. Their mouths were in an O shapes. They did not close their mouths for a long time. Among the formation of countless large guilds, the smile on Peerless Prideful's face froze, and everyone else widened their eyes. The legendary boss was killed just like that? One of his subordinates gulped and looked at Peerless Prideful as he asked, "Boss, what do we do now? Are we still going to attack Netherworld?" Hearing this, Peerless Prideful looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. This F***ing legendary boss with 100 million HP had been insta-killed. What was there to attack? Was he tired of living? However, in front of so many underlings, he could not lose face as the boss. He pretended to be calm and said, "Hee, we're here to help. Would Netherworld still dare to attack us?" "Yes, yes, yes, we're here to help. Why would Netherworld attack us? That's right, we're allies. That's right." Hearing these words, arrogance returned to Peerless Prideful's heart. He was the guild leader of the 3 great guilds of the Divine Dragon Alliance. Would Netherworld dare to fight him? One had to know that in Tribe, players who attacked other lords would enter a red name status. If they died in this status, their levels would drop by 3 levels. Those who killed them would receive 50% of the territory's resources. It could be said that the punishment was extremely heavy. Peerless Prideful was certain that Netherworld would not dare to attack him. However, at this moment, a terrifying cylindrical energy wave passed through the fog and suddenly exploded in their camp. In an instant, the ground shook violently. Lillian's slender figure appeared from the fog. This time, she ordered all the Heavenly Knights to use Heavenly Rage. She glanced at the troops of the various large guilds indifferently, as if she was looking at a pile of dead people. In her heart, she knew if she wanted to deal with Li Cheng, he would be a dead man. When the energy wave dissipated, the system's various voices rang in Li Cheng's ears at the same time. Ding, dong. You've killed Peerless Prideful's troops. You've obtained 1,000 slaughter points. You've also triggered the 10,000 times amplification system and obtained 10 million slaughter points. Ding, dong. You've killed Peerless Prideful's troops. You've obtained 1,000 slaughter points. You've also triggered the 10,000 times amplification system and obtained 10 million slaughter points. Ding, dong. You've killed Peerless Prideful's troops. You've obtained 1,000 slaughter points. You've also triggered the 10,000 times amplification system and obtained 10 million slaughter points. Ding, dong. Other than the slaughter points obtained from killing the players, there was another special sound that echoed in Li Cheng's ears. Ding, dong, you've entered the red name state. The red name state will last 24 hours. Under this state, your death penalty will be very strict. Ding, dong, you've entered the red name state. The red name state will last 48 hours. Under this state, your death penalty will be very strict. Ding, dong, you've entered the red name state. The red name state will last 72 hours. Under this state, your death penalty will be very strict. Ding, dong, you've entered the red name state. The red name state will last. The red name state could only last for a maximum of 3 days. Li Cheng immediately filled it up. Of course, he did not care about whether or not he had a red name. If someone wanted to kill him, he would just let them try. He would then let them know what absolute strength was. What surprised Li Cheng was that in this wave, the Heavenly Knights had killed 1,700,000 troops and obtained 17,000,000 slaughter points. Li Cheng had not expected such a situation. Of course, it was not that the Heavenly Knights had killed 1,700,000 troops. Rather, it was that he had accidentally killed a player and obtained 17,000,000 slaughter points. This made him a little excited. There were still tens of millions of troops in front of him. Since killing players can earn you slaughter points, then the method to repair the heart of massacre has been found. Right after that, Li Cheng gave an order to Lillian, Luna, kill them all, not a single one left. The 2 heroines immediately nodded and replied, yes. Following the command of the 2 heroines, the Heavenly Knights gripped their spears tightly and charged toward the players' troops. For a moment, the Heavenly Knights were like tigers entering a flock of sheep, constantly piercing through the formation of the various large guilds. The Heavenly Knights, who originally lacked AoE damage, instantly gained a powerful AoE ability after being commanded by Li Cheng. At the same time, countless frost marksmen arrived at the battlefield at an inconceivable speed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A rain of arrows rained down from the sky and the guild players' troops fell one after another. They did not even have time to react, leaving behind only the wails of countless guild players. When he saw this situation, Peerless Prideful's face turned green. He had never thought that this netherworld would be so bold and arrogant. How did he dare to start a war against so many people? Was he not afraid of the various large guilds taking revenge? In just a short while, he had already lost 1/5 of his troops. It made his heart bleed. He did not have time to think about it now. He quickly commanded his troops to minimize the losses. Kill, kill, kill. Shoot. All ranged troops, focus your fire on one team first. Hearing the guild leader's words, the guild players quickly reacted and began to mobilize their ranged troops. One of them was called Unrivaled Prideful. He was one of the top experts in the guild, and he had 4,000 level 3 soldiers, hyena archers. An army of 4,000 level 3 archers was definitely a powerful existence at this time. Seeing that his guild had suffered heavy losses, a sharp glint flashed in Unrivaled Prideful's eyes. He immediately ordered, "Fire!" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Countless arrows shot out from the sky, forming a huge net in the air. Seeing the countless arrows raining down on the heavenly knights, a cruel smile appeared on Unrivaled Prideful's face. With 4,000 level 3 archers focusing their fire, he was confident that his opponent would be instantly killed, even if he was a level 5 soldier. However, what unfolded in the next second made him completely dumbfounded, along with countless others. As expected, the rain of arrows fell on the heavenly knights, making a series of tinkling sounds, but what did they see? -0. -0. -0. -0. Chapter 43, The Living God of Death. The sound of the rain of arrows colliding with the armor of the heavenly knights was crisp and melodious. However, it was so ear-piercing to Unrivaled Prideful's ears. How's this possible? 4,000 level 3 soldiers can't break through the defense of the Netherworld soldiers. What kind of soldier is he? How can he be so abnormal? No one answered him. The heavenly knights simply glanced at the hyena archers, and then at Unrivaled Prideful. Although they did not say anything sarcastic, not saying anything was the greatest sarcasm. After that, the heavenly knights continued to weave through their formation, drawing beautiful blue lines in the air. The cavalry was going to use their advantage and charge. Seeing this, the various large guilds were in deep despair. How were they going to fight? They gritted their teeth and attacked, but the enemy did not lose HP at all and they could not break through their defenses. They were seriously in despair. They could not win at all, and the players from the various large guilds collapsed. Ah! This is **king monster, run! I just leveled up, I don't want to lose levels. Help! Netherworld's too strong, this guy isn't human. Boss, can we not kill him and surrender? I really don't want to drop a level. The ones who responded to these people were the heavenly knights' spears. In an instant, some players ran back without caring about their lives. In Tribe, the price of dying once was too high. In order to save their lives, they did not care about anything else. The battle continued. As expected, it was a one-sided situation. In less than half an hour, there were not many people left in the camps of the large guilds. Some ran, some died, and some were trampled to death by their own people. At this moment, Li Cheng's eyes were shining even brighter, because the recovery of the Heart of Massacre had already exceeded 10%. At this stage of its recovery, 100 million units needed to be killed. If they were only looking for wild monsters, it would be too difficult to find that many of them. Moreover, it would not be easy to find a player's army. Of course, Li Cheng would not kill every player he saw. If anyone was hostile to him, he would merely say sorry. After checking on the Heart of Massacre and turning off the interface, Li Cheng saw the lone commander, Peerless Prideful, standing not far away. There was not a single unit beside him. The reason he was still alive was naturally because Li Cheng had given the order not to kill him for the time being. Otherwise, how could he still be standing here? At this moment, Peerless Prideful also saw Li Cheng. When he saw Li Cheng's teasing gaze, Peerless Prideful's entire face flushed red. Previously, he had been so calm and collected. It was as if Li Cheng's life was in his hands. However, the cruelty of reality had taught him a deep lesson. Netherworld. You've offended so many guilds. Do you know the consequences? A person's ultimately weak. It hasn't been long since the game started. Give us time, and you'll soon learn the consequences of offending us. Hurry up and kowtow and apologize to me, or else. Hearing this, Li Cheng almost laughed out loud. He seriously suspected that there was something wrong with this fellow's brain. Li Cheng had killed tens of thousands of troops, yet he still had to kowtow and apologize to him? Did this guy take the wrong medicine? Following that, Li Cheng gently waved his staff and casually threw a normal attack. Dark green energy instantly burst and Peerless Prideful's downward adjustment was immediately nullified. Ding, dong, you've killed the player, Peerless Prideful. Ding, dong, because you've killed too many players, you have obtained the Black Iron title Exposed Killing Intent. Ding, dong, you've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the epic title, Living God of Death. Living God of Death, Epic. Grade, only hidden. Effect, deals 100% damage to all player units. At this moment, Li Cheng also saw the title's attributes. The title's effect was very powerful, directly increasing his damage by 1-fold. If this was applicable to player kills, it would be like a godly weapon. However, to Li Cheng, it was a little useless. The attacks that he had sent out had long since overflowed. In any case, any one of his attacks would instantly kill him. The battle ended too quickly. The other players had yet to react. After Peerless Prideful died, they suddenly realized that the other players from the various large guilds had all died. At this moment, Li Cheng also changed the conditions of the quest. The remaining players were stunned for a moment before quickly opening their quest panel. Ding, dong, the quest Clear the Church of Poison has changed its requirements. Requirements: 1. Good faction, at least level 2 armies, with more than 2,000 soldiers. 2. Peerless Prideful and his dogs are not allowed to partake in the quest. Ha ha ha, Netherworld boss is so despicable. Tisk, 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 he's going to offend Peerless Prideful to death. As expected of Netherworld boss, he's really domineering. Awesome, I've long been displeased with the members of the Prideful Guild. It's a pity that I don't have the strength. I support Netherworld boss this time. +1. +10086. While they were discussing, Lillian returned to Li Cheng's side and said, Lord, we've dropped a lot of equipment. Li Cheng looked forward. The deserters were almost done chasing them. On the ground, all kinds of equipment were dropped. No matter what, the various large guilds were at the forefront of the game. Although the quality of the equipment was very low with most of them being ordinary equipment, it should not be forgotten that it had not even been a day since the server opened. They were already considered very strong. Although Li Cheng did not like them, the other players were almost drooling, and because Li Cheng was here, no one dared to go up and pick them up. They could only look at Li Cheng helplessly. He shook his head. They're all trash. Forget it. Use the fastest speed possible to clear out the remaining believers. Lillian nodded, turned around, and led the Heavenly Knights to continue clearing out the believers. At this time, Li Cheng looked at the position of the Purple Rose Guild. To be honest, Li Cheng was quite surprised by Purple Rose's actions. He did not expect that this beautiful guild leader, who he thought was a little unruly, would actually choose to help him even if it meant making an enemy out of the other guilds. One had to know that although Peerless Prideful was a little stupid, he had a father who was quite evil. He controlled a very large group and had unparalleled power. To Purple Rose, offending such an organization meant creating a powerful enemy. Thinking of this, Li Cheng sent a friend request over. He did not mind working with Purple Rose since Li Cheng would have to cultivate his own organization sooner or later. Although the word tribe sounded small, it was actually very big. It was impossible for Li Cheng to do everything on his own. Not to mention, once the game merges with the real world in a few years, he would have more things to take care of. Chapter 44, The Goddess is About to Descend? Li Cheng's plan was to create his own power, including but not limited to NPCs, players, lords, and even slaves. Purple Rose was undoubtedly a good worker. At this stage, there were some tasks that could be entrusted to her. Ding, dong. You've successfully added Purple Rose as a friend. Very quickly, Purple Rose accepted Li Cheng's friend request. As soon as the system notification rang, Li Cheng sent her a few messages. You'll be glad of your decision today, Lin Ruxi. Your Rose Guild can take the equipment dropped by the guilds on the battlefield. When Purple Rose saw the message from Li Cheng, her body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. What's going on? How does he know my real name? After all, she had never revealed her real name in the game. Even the vice guild leaders of the Rose Guild only knew that she was an otaku and did not know her real name. Purple Rose immediately sent Li Cheng a series of messages to ask. Who exactly are you? How do you know my name? Do you know me? Tell me, who are you? Say something. Looking at the messages that popped up in the chat box, Li Cheng could imagine how crazy Purple Rose was probably feeling. Li Cheng rubbed his head and suddenly regretted his actions. Why did he have to provoke women for no reason? His Lillian was much better. Both Lillian and Luna were so obedient and considerate. How could they be as annoying as Purple Rose? More importantly, touching their hands would make them blush. They were so shy and cute. In comparison, Purple Rose seemed a little irritable. Thinking of this, Li Cheng blocked Purple Rose's message. He planned to unlock it later, or else it would be very annoying. Ding, dong, message failed. You've been blocked by the other party. Looking at the big red exclamation mark, Purple Rose was stunned. She blinked her big eyes in disbelief. Netherworld actually dared to block her? Who was she? Purple Rose. The #1 beauty of the Dragon God Alliance. Although her friend's status was not as exaggerated as Li Cheng's 10 million, it was definitely not something that anyone could boast about it. Netherworld actually dared to block her. Purple Rose raised her head and looked at Li Cheng. She saw Li Cheng walk straight to the altar as if nothing had happened. He did not even look at her. Netherworld. Are you crazy? Adding me as a friend and then blocking me? Are you kidding me? Purple Rose stomped her foot and cursed under her breath. She had never been so angry before. She took a few deep breaths and tried her best not to raise her blood pressure too high. Otherwise, her blood vessels would explode from anger. The guild members behind her did not dare to make a sound when they saw the guild leader's expression. In the end, it was a senior vice guild leader who asked what they should do. Everyone, pick up the equipment. According to the guild's old rules, everything will be handed over to the guild and then distributed. Guild leader, will Netherworld have an opinion about this? It's fine. He's the one who said so. When she heard the word Netherworld, Purple Rose's blood pressure almost rose again. Fortunately, she had a good upbringing, so she suppressed the anger in her heart. Yes. At this point, the members of the Rose Guild went down to pick up the equipment happily. Li Cheng had already reached the depths of the trash. The surrounding troops were still cleaning up the believers who were fleeing in all directions. If they were to gather together, Li Cheng would be able to insta-kill them. However, if they were to flee in all directions, it would be a waste of time to chase after them. Li Cheng approached the corpse of the boss and started to collect his spoils of war. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the spoils of war legendary poison devouring armor. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the prize 10,000 mythical grade all-purpose antidotes. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained the prize letter from the higher UPS of the church. With Li Cheng's super high luck value and 10,000 times increase, he had indeed obtained quite a number of good items. The poison-devouring armor was a coat. Li Cheng did not need it, so he threw it into his backpack. Then, Li Cheng turned his attention to the all-purpose antidote. All-purpose antidote. Description: an antidote concocted by the Church of Poison. It can neutralize most of the poison. Level 1. Grade: Mythical. Effect: all units are immune to poison damage and poison effects. Lasts for 30 minutes. Only units below immortal level are affected by poison. Looking at the effect of the all-purpose antidote, Li Cheng nodded his head in satisfaction. The mythical grade all-purpose antidote could neutralize poison damage after use. It was undoubtedly very useful. In Tribe, the Church of Poison was not the only one that could use poison to attack. Many monsters were born with poison, and players' troops could also poison their enemies. The only limitation was that this all-purpose antidote was ineffective against units that were mythical grade and above. Other than that, it could be said to be very powerful. At the mid-game stage, if this was put on the market, it would definitely be sold at a sky-high price. Li Cheng had a 10,000 times amplification system, which helped him obtain 10,000 bottles. He had to admit that his luck was pretty good. Then, Li Cheng looked at the last item, a letter from the higher UPS of the church. Letter from the higher UPS of the church. Description: a letter from a high-level member of the Church of Poison. What is recorded in it is unknown. Level 1. Effect: after using it, there's a 5% chance of obtaining the information within. After reading this letter, he recalled that he had seen something similar in his previous life. This type of envelope was specially processed. If it was opened, it might be immediately destroyed. The chances of opening it successfully were very low. Li Cheng thought for a moment. If he did not open it, the information inside might lose its effectiveness and be discarded. Thinking of this, Li Cheng opened the letter. Ding, dong. You've chosen to open the letter from the higher UPS of the church. The current success rate is 5%. Ding, dong. You've triggered the 10,000 times amplification system. The current success rate is 100%. Ding, dong. You've successfully opened the letter from the higher UPS of the church. Li Cheng raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the 10,000 times increase to be effective on this thing. Then, he looked at the letter and a few messages appeared. The goddess is about to descend. All strongholds, prepare for the sacrifice. The Church of Light attacked our city and saved those white-clothed ****. I reckon those paladins will make a move soon. Be careful, don't let anything happen. Chapter 45, Immediately Become Rich. After reading the letter, Li Cheng could not help but be shocked. The poison goddess was about to descend? Did she want to play God's descent? According to Li Cheng's understanding in his previous life, ordinary gods would not descend to the main world. After entering the main world, it meant that they were risking death. This was something that those gods could not bear. Therefore, God's descent was their most commonly used method. It had the strength of at least a legendary level 9. Generally, the gods had mythical grade strength, while some were even stronger. Thinking of this, Li Cheng could not help but frown slightly. Although he had the strength to sweep away all the players, it was still not enough to face a god. After all, the tribe server had just opened. If he was given time, it was not impossible to kill a god. Li Cheng made up his mind. It was better to be more cautious in the following days. What he lacked the most was time. While Li Cheng was lost in thought, Luna found a treasure chest at the center of the altar. Li Cheng walked over and opened the treasure chest without saying anything. Ding, dong. You've opened the gold treasure chest. You've also triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained a high-level enchantment table blueprint and a high-level magic trap blueprint. Hearing the system's notification, Li Cheng was a little surprised. He had actually received some architectural blueprints. One had to know that the drop rate of architectural blueprints was very low. Moreover, these two things were quite useful to Li Cheng. There were some special buildings in Tribe that would not be automatically unlocked. Players needed to have the corresponding design blueprint to be able to build them. The high-level enchantment table could enchant equipment below epic grade. It would also require the corresponding enchantment card whereby each card would have different abilities. Ordinary cards would only increase some basic attributes, while legendary grade and above cards would not only provide a large number of attribute bonuses, but they could also add powerful skills to equipment. One had to know that in Tribe, there were military equipment. If one enchanted a piece of military equipment, it was very likely that it would affect the entire army. If that was the case, it would be extremely terrifying. High-level magic traps were defensive items. The traps were usually used only when some underground cities needed to be built, and most of the traps could only be used to deal with some ordinary wild monsters. This was because ordinary traps were too eye-catching and anyone with a brain could avoid them. However, a high-level magic trap had crystals to provide the trap with some mana, making it extremely well hidden and difficult to discover. Moreover, its power was very strong. Even some legendary soldiers could be instantly killed if they had relatively fragile skin. Thinking of this, Li Cheng did not hesitate and immediately used these two architectural blueprints. Ding, dong. You've used the high-level enchantment table blueprint. You've also triggered a 10,000 times amplification in power and unlocked a new building blueprint, the highest level enchantment table. Ding, dong. You've used the high-level magic trap blueprint. You've also triggered a 10,000 times amplification in power and unlocked a new building blueprint, the highest level ice-type magic trap, the highest level earth-type magic trap, and the highest level thunder-type magic trap. Li Cheng raised his eyebrows and a smile appeared on his face. He had not expected that after the amplification was used, it would trigger another 10,000 times amplification. This was something he had not expected. The highest level enchantment table could be used to enchant mythical grade equipment at the highest level. This was extremely abnormal. In his previous life, Li Cheng had only heard of this kind of thing and had never seen it before. There were only a few such things in the entire Lost Continent. Only the royal dwarves and the Elven Queen had them, and it was useless for the other races to covet them. If they wanted to use them, they could only beg the royal dwarves. The Elven Queen might not even give anyone a chance. Even if a chance was given, enchanting it once would cost at least hundreds of millions of gold coins. Therefore, in the later stages, even if players had divine weapons, they could not enchant them. The main reason was that it was too expensive and it took too much time to queue up. Of course, this was not a problem for Li Cheng. What did he not have now? As for the magic traps, he had unlocked a large number of them. There were all kinds of them, and the materials needed for each type of magic trap were different. Everything was the same. With more materials required, the damage would be higher. Li Cheng roughly estimated that such a magic trap was enough to deal with large-scale battles of tens of millions of units. At that moment, the sound of a system notification rang in Li Cheng's ears again. Ding, dong. You've cleared a Church of Poison stronghold. Your total reward, 5,000 contribution points, 16,520000 gold coins, 23,500000 wood, 18,000000 iron ores, 42,000000 stones, and 8,200000 food. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase. Your total reward, 5,000,000 contribution points 165,20,000 gold coins, 235,000,000 wood, 180 billion iron ores, 420 billion stones, and 82,000,000 food. Ding, dong. The news of you clearing out the Church of Poison Stronghold has spread to the ears of other gods. As the spokesperson of Trelafani, the goddess of the moon dance, you've obtained 200 reputation points. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times amplification and obtained 200,000 reputation points. Hearing the system's notification ringing in his ear, Li Cheng was stunned for a moment. He had obtained countless resources just by destroying a stronghold, and those resources were worth hundreds of billions. Even he felt that it was a bit dreamy. Even in the later stages, such a huge amount of resources was enough to run a large guild for a long period of time. Li Cheng sighed once again. Plundering and invading was always one of the fastest ways to make a fortune. Putting aside these resources, the 600,000 contribution points also made Li Cheng smile. This time, he had made a huge profit. The only thing that made Li Cheng unhappy was how the stronghold that he had spent so much effort to destroy increased the reputation points from that trashy Trelafani. This had nothing to do with her, right? Although he was a little uncomfortable, Li Cheng also caught a very important piece of information from the system's message. The gods had begun to pay attention to this place. The god of light was, after all, the representative of the good camp. His every move would be noticed by the entire world. He believed that the goddess of poison must have known about this place. Would this cause a chain reaction? For example, the goddess of poison's allies would stab him in the back. On the contrary, the gods who had a grudge against her could provide him with some help. In that case, would it be possible for him to manipulate the situation? Chapter 46, Church of Poison's Holy Son. At this time, the Church of Poison's stronghold was filled with smoke. There were no living believers left. Li Cheng did not hesitate and headed toward the second stronghold. The players who had been following behind him naturally followed. After this battle, they now knew how to gain contribution points. The morale of the enemies who were defeated by Li Cheng's troops would instantly drop to zero. Such enemies would only run away and not retaliate. At that time, they would then think of ways to surround them and slowly destroy them. The players' current damage was a little like scraping their enemies. However, as long as they could break through their defenses, they would be able to kill the enemies bit by bit. While the number of kills would be very small, they could still earn contribution points and experience points. Li Cheng would not pay attention to those defeated enemies. He completely looked down on them. Hence, other than earning contribution points, the rest of the players could also pick up the limitless equipment that was dropped by the defeated troops. Even so, they still felt that they were earning blood when in fact, they were still working for Li Cheng. If Li Cheng went to kill such deserters, it would only waste a large amount of time. Meanwhile, the monsters that the players killed would also earn contribution points for Li Cheng. As they continued forward, they soon arrived at the second stronghold. Compared to the first stronghold, the second stronghold was a little lacking in terms of manpower. There was only a total of more than 50,000 troops in the second stronghold. Moreover, it was the most trashy type of level 5 troops and there was no boss. Li Cheng did not care about such a stronghold that was not challenging at all. He let Lillian and Luna, the two heroines, handle it themselves. In less than 5 minutes, the second stronghold had been cleared by the two heroines. Li Cheng's eyes were already fixed on the last red dot on the map, the third stronghold. The army continued to move forward, killing along the way. As the players' experience points increased, many of the players' troops were able to clear the surrounding skeletons they encountered on their way. This saved Li Cheng a lot of trouble. His troops' experience points were already full. If he continued to clear these monsters, it would only waste his time. His target was the third stronghold. Li Cheng did not bother about the monsters along the way. He increased his speed and arrived at the third stronghold in a short while. This last stronghold was obviously much larger than the previous two. The altar was also slightly different. There were countless strange patterns carved on it, giving off a terrifying and strange aura. It made people feel very uncomfortable. Rumble. Just as Li Cheng's troops were about to approach, a dark green energy pillar with a diameter of more than 10 meters suddenly shot into the sky from inside the stronghold. The entire space was illuminated in a dark green color. At this moment, Luna's face was filled with worry as she looked at the abnormal situation on the altar. She frowned and said to Li Cheng, "Lord, I have a bad feeling." Li Cheng frowned as well. However, since they had already reached this point, how could he retreat? "Let's go and take a look." Before they went over, he cast Shadow of the Mist and hid his troops inside the fog. As they slowly approached, Li Cheng saw the situation inside the altar. Countless level 8 poison priests stood inside, and the number of believers present was roughly around 2 million. Li Cheng estimated that the players might not be able to defeat such a large group, not until another month's time. However, he did not really care about it. Li Cheng's gaze landed on the most conspicuous building in the altar. There was a huge statue that was over 40 meters tall. It looked like an old woman holding a walking stick. Who else could it be other than the goddess of poison? The dark green light pillar that was over 10 meters tall was emitted from the walking stick of the statue. It was obvious that these believers of the Church of Poison were conducting some kind of sacrificial activity. How could they let the enemy proceed as they wished? Thinking of this, Li Cheng immediately ordered the troops to launch an attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Countless arrows pierced through the air. The blue frost crystals illuminated the entire altar, making it abnormally bright. The heavenly knights also launched an attack in an instant. The mechanical horse hooves stomped on the floor, making a crisp sound. The further away they were, the higher the damage dealt by the heavenly knights. At this moment, their damage was naturally pulled to the maximum. In just an instant, the Church of Poison suffered heavy losses. At the same time, the system notification rang in Li Cheng's ears. He did not care for it at all because all of Li Cheng's hair was standing on end. A sharp and terrifying energy shot straight toward Li Cheng. He immediately reacted. A cold feeling spread throughout his entire body. When the energy hit his body, white numbers appeared. -0. -0. Li Cheng let out a huge sigh of relief. He naturally had to find the person who attacked him. Following the trajectory of the attack, Li Cheng immediately found the person who attacked him. It was a man who was completely hidden in a dark green robe. He immediately cast a detection spell and information about this man appeared. Poisonous Holy Sun Andy, legendary. Description: one of the 12 priests of the Church of Poison. He's infamous throughout the continent. Countless temples are placing a bounty on his head. In the Church of Light, his wanted contribution points are in the millions. Grade: legendary. Level: 160. HP: 2.6 billion/2.6 billion. Physical/magic attack: 13,000,000. Defense: 60,000. Skills: Poison Domain, Advanced Teleportation Spell, Advanced Concealment, Poison Immunity, God's Descent, Deadly Poison Finger. Seeing this ID, Li Cheng's eyelids twitched. Sure enough, there was a reason why his hair stood on end earlier. The man in front of him had used Deadly Poison Finger on him. The poisonous Holy Sun Andy was one of the 12 priests of the Goddess of Poison. He was completely different from those legendary grade powerhouses who were activated using drugs. He was a genuine legendary grade powerhouse. He was also a holy son of the Church of Poison. Just him alone was enough to defeat hundreds of legendary grade players who were activated by potions. His attributes were also ridiculously high. Just his HP alone was as high as 2.6 billion. The deadly poison finger that Andy used could at least deal over 1 million in damage. It had to be said that Andy's strategy just now was completely correct. As long as he killed Li Cheng, the morale of his troops would be greatly reduced. It would then be countless times easier to deal with him. This was the same fatal weakness of countless players. Normally, Li Cheng would have been dead for sure, but when he felt danger approaching, he activated his moon dance cloak, and immediately, it took away the damage. Otherwise, Li Cheng would have already returned to the real world with a black screen. Chapter 47, The Arrival of the Goddess of Poison. Andy was not surprised to see that his attack did not cause any harm to Li Cheng. He just started to size Li Cheng up. A sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. He looked at Li Cheng and said, "Holy son of Trelafani, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Those idiots from before were just bait for me to use. What I didn't expect was that you actually dared to come here. Since you're here, have you thought about how you're going to beg for mercy in front of the goddess?" Hearing Andy's words, Li Cheng really wanted to refute that he was not that trashy holy son of Trelafani. He had only received Trelafani's highest blessing, which gave him an extremely high attribute bonus. Therefore, the aura on his body was very rich. However, when Li Cheng was about to open his mouth to say something, he saw the holy son of the Church of Poison, Andy, jump into the huge light pillar behind him without hesitation. This made Li Cheng's eyelids jump. He knew what Andy was trying to do. The goddess of poison could be said to be the sworn enemy of Trelafani. If there was any way to make Trelafani suffer a fatal blow, Andy would definitely not say anything. Li Cheng happened to have Trelafani's highest blessing on him. One had to know that this highest blessing consisted of a god's divine power. As long Andy thought of a way to kill Li Cheng, the goddess of poison would be able to give Trelafani a fatal blow. After thinking through all this, Li Cheng's gaze became solemn. Andy did not attack him directly. Instead, he jumped into the light pillar behind him. This gave Li Cheng a bad premonition. The huge light pillar grew bigger as Andy jumped into it. With the gathering of energy, there was no need for Li Cheng to make a move. The believers of the Church of Poison fell to the ground. Strangely, their health bars disappeared into thin air. This was not the case for just one person, but for the 2 million believers present. In the blink of an eye, they were all dead. This is a blood sacrifice. Li Cheng's heart skipped a beat. The bad premonition grew stronger and stronger. His eyes were fixed on the light pillar and he had a bold guess in his heart. He could not help but think too much. He heard a loud, earth-shattering sound coming from the light pillar. Boom! Then, a terrifying aura spread out instantly. In the blink of an eye, it had covered all the players that were in Death Valley. At this moment, the system's voice rang in every player's ears. Ding, dong! For unknown reasons, you've obtained the buff, Fear. All units' movement and attack speed have decreased by 100%. World announcement. A terrifying and powerful existence has descended into Death Valley. All players, please, evacuate immediately. World announcement. A terrifying and powerful existence has descended into Death Valley. All players, please, evacuate immediately. The world announcement rang in the players' ears 3 times. Upon hearing the system's notification, the players were about to flee when they realized that they could not even move from where they stood. The cold caused by fear instantly made them shudder. Some of the weaker players were kicked offline by the system. Fear filled their hearts. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Why can't I move? I'm so scared. A lot of people around me have been kicked offline. Help! I just lured a wave of wild monsters. Now the troops can't even move. Someone save me. Can someone tell me what's going on? This is so freaking scary. Netherworld boss, what kind of existence have you provoked? What should we do now? In the Rose Guild, Purple Rose's slender shoulders trembled. She bit her red lip hard and forced herself to overcome the fear in her heart. Unfortunately, everything was in vain. A shudder that came from the depths of her soul made her want to kneel down and surrender immediately. Purple Rose was the closest to Li Cheng, so the pressure she felt was also the strongest, excluding Li Cheng. Unlike the others, Li Cheng had an additional message that popped up in his ear. Ding, dong, due to Moon Dance Goddess's highest blessing, you're immune to the fear buff. The cool aura dissipated. Li Cheng was not affected by the negative effect of the fear buff. However, he was not in the mood to care about these things right now. Instead, he was looking at the huge statue within the altar with a solemn expression. Goddess of Poison, Descent. Description: the image of the Goddess of Poison that appeared in the origin world after her descent. Grade: Mythical, Tier 5. Level: HP. Attack. Defense. Skills. Looking at the data of the Goddess of Poison, Li Cheng's head was full of question marks. How the hell was he supposed to fight if no information was displayed? He understood that as long as it was a god, its strength would be at least at the immortal level. Although the Goddess of Poison was relatively trashy among all the gods, it would still be a dimensional blow when it came to the origin world. Just her descent alone had allowed her strength to reach the 5th tier of the mythical grade. The most important thing was that one could not measure gods by their ordinary ranks, or else one would be at a disadvantage. At this time, the Goddess of Poison slowly opened her eyes made of energy and looked down at Li Cheng. When the players saw this, their scalps went numb, but they did not dare to speak. Human, offer me Trelafani's divine power and I may spare your life. As soon as she finished speaking, a godlike pressure came at Li Cheng, trying to give him psychological pressure. If he was an ordinary person, he might have given in, but who was Li Cheng? A reincarnation. In the world a few years later, all kinds of gods appeared one after another. It was simply a mob of demons dancing, and it was almost common for gods to fall. The pressure of a trashy god like the Goddess of Poison did not have any effect on him. However, it had to be said that for the current Li Cheng, the Goddess of Poison was still very strong, especially through the descent of the Holy Sun, Andi. That made her abilities even stronger. Otherwise, why would Li Cheng not be able to see the attributes of the Goddess of Poison? Although she was very strong to Li Cheng, it did not mean that he could not do anything to her. At the second base, he had already thought of how to deal with the Goddess of Poison when the time came. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and Li Cheng did not want to drag it out. He smiled and said to the Goddess of Poison, "Do you really think you're that strong, Doris?" Hearing Li Cheng call her by her name, the Goddess of Poison was furious. What right did a mere human have to offend a god? She was so angry that she laughed instead. She let out a terrifying laugh and said, "Human, it looks like you're really courting death." Chapter 48, Divine Power Skill, Poison Domain. Li Cheng did not take the threat of the Goddess of Poison seriously at all. He immediately replied, "Are you that arrogant? You're just a stray dog being chased around by the good camp. If I told you the coordinates of your divine kingdom, do you think you'd still be shouting at me like this?" Hearing this, the Goddess of Poison was first stunned, then she sneered, not taking his words seriously at all. Seeing this, Li Cheng immediately shouted, "Are you pretending to be your mother? Don't think I don't know that your divine kingdom's in the crack of the calm sea. The coordinates are 152,687, 465289. The poison goddess was shocked. The smile on her face froze and the expression on her face was extremely interesting, almost as if she had seen a ghost. The goddess of poison was roaring in her heart, how does this human know? After all, the divine kingdom of a god was the most confidential information. Even the most devout believers might not know where the divine kingdom of their own god was. If the location of the divine kingdom was exposed, the other hostile gods could attack her. Among the gods, the most difficult to locate was the position of the enemy. Otherwise, those weaker gods would have no room to survive. Li Cheng's sudden words were not to scare her but to tell the other gods this information. He had felt it long ago that many gods were watching him. The goddess of poison could be said to be the enemy of all gods. Wherever she went, the plague would spread. It was simply a walking biochemical weapon. The most important thing was that it did not distinguish between friend and foe. Once the plague spread, even the troops of the evil camp would die in large numbers. Her reputation was so bad that everyone wanted to beat her up. At this time, the gods who were paying attention to this situation were all stunned when they heard Li Cheng's words. They had dreamed of finding the goddess of poison's divine kingdom, but they did not expect a human youth to say it out loud. The most important thing was that judging from the expression of the goddess of poison, it really seemed to be true. The gods looked at each other. They did not know whether the information was true or not. One of the gods said in an uncertain tone, "How about trying? Then go and try." Immediately, there was a response from the gods. From this, it could be seen that the goddess of poison was really disliked among the rest of the gods. The crack in the calm sea was a large-scale plain located at the edge of the universe. The calm sea was also called the Mirror Sea. The characteristic of this place was that it was composed of countless mirrors, and each mirror was an independent space. There were at least trillions of independent spaces here. The divine kingdom of the goddess of poison was hidden here, which was why many gods could not find it. Without precise coordinates, it was even more ridiculous to find a person here than finding a needle in a haystack. At this time, a bolt of lightning with a terrifying aura cut through the space and hit a mirror image. Boom! The terrifying energy spread out, and countless mirrors were shattered under the impact of the energy waves, turning into countless tiny fragments. Seeing this, the gods who came were all stunned. It seems like there really is something there. If it was an ordinary mirror image, there would not be such a terrifying energy wave. The gods' eyes lit up. They looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. "Let me try." Then, another god could not help but launch an attack. A red heavy sword fell from the sky and smashed down heavily. Boom! The terrifying energy waves collided again. "Haha, it seems like it's really here. Let me try, let me try." The gods became restless and wanted to try attacking it one after another. Laughter mixed with the chaos. "Ha ha ha, I've been looking for her for more than 1,000 years, and finally, I've caught her. I didn't expect what that human said was true. He really found the divine kingdom of the goddess of poison. Poison rat, why don't you hide? Let's see where you can hide this time." For a moment, the gods all moved toward the same location and countless terrifying attacks were launched at the coordinates Li Cheng had mentioned. To the gods, the goddess of poison was really a rat crossing the street and everyone wanted to beat her up. Some gods were not satisfied after beating her up, so they went to inform their allies. Soon, more and more gods attacked the goddess of poison's divine kingdom. Some gods even moved their divine kingdoms before they quietly approached the crack in the calm sea. At this time, the goddess of poison who had descended in front of Li Cheng showed an extremely angry expression. The reason being, as long as those gods kept attacking her divine kingdom, her physical body that descended would shrink a few meters shorter. One had to know that the defense of a divine kingdom required a large amount of divine power, and the divine power would be consumed when the divine kingdom was under attack. Hence, this would reduce the goddess of poison's divine power after having descended. As the gods attacked, the body of the goddess of poison in the origin world became smaller and smaller. 30 meters, 25 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters. In less than 3 seconds, the body of the goddess of poison had shrunk to 6 or 7 meters, and her rank had also dropped to legendary tier 1. Seeing this scene, Li Cheng was also a bit surprised. The speed of the descent was so fast. In these few seconds, there were probably no less than 20 gods who had attacked her divine kingdom. Li Cheng could not help but sigh. This old witch had too many enemies. Damn humans! Pay the price! The goddess of poison hated Li Cheng to the core as she roared crazily. At this stage, she could no longer maintain her descent in the origin world. This was all thanks to the humans on the other side. The staff in her hand suddenly emitted a dazzling dark green light, swiftly wrapping around Li Cheng. Ding, dong! The goddess of poison has released the divine power skill, Poison Domain. Poison Domain releases the poison power that's condensed from divine power. After use, all enemies within 20,000 yards will enter a poisoned state, reducing 30% of their HP every second for 60 seconds. The lowest HP will be reduced to 1 point. Seeing the system notification, Li Cheng was also shocked. Divine power skills were skills that only gods could release. Even gods themselves would not use it casually because it would consume a large amount of divine power after use. It seemed that the goddess of poison really hated Li Cheng to the extreme, so she released her divine power skill. Obviously, she did not leave him a way out. At this time, the dark green light had already spread out rapidly from the goddess of poison. Everyone looked at Li Cheng with an unusually grave expression. They did not know how Li Cheng would deal with it. Would he surrender or use his mortal body to rebel against the gods? Chapter 49, Ultimate Control, First God Kill. Compared to the crowd's nervousness, Li Cheng was much calmer. In his previous life, Li Cheng had experienced battles more dangerous than this. The scene in front of him was not enough to make him flustered. Li Cheng did not think much and immediately used the flag of Holy Light skill. Holy Light shields appeared on the bodies of the heavenly knights. At the same time, Li Cheng ordered the Holy Light priests to release an invincible skill to envelop all the troops. They all entered an invincible state. Sizzle sizzle sizzle. The sound of the poison corroding the light shields could be heard. Above the light shields, the dark green poison churned violently. It looked fierce, but the poison still could not penetrate the light shields. The god of light was an existence that was countless times stronger than the goddess of poison. Although these skills only came from legendary equipment and did not seem to be high enough in tier, this was the origin world. The goddess of poison could not mobilize too much divine power, which was why her poison domain could not corrode his light shields. However, the number of holy light priests was still too small, so they could not continuously fight against the poison domain. Many frost marksmen were also affected. Their health bars fell. In just a few seconds, their health bars could no longer be seen with the naked eye. In the end, they were forced to stop at one point. Seeing this, Li Cheng made a prompt decision and immediately pulled the frost marksmen into the distance. Li Cheng cherished every branch of his army very much. If they could not fight, he had to try his best to save them. While he was retreating, Li Cheng cast a detection spell and checked the information of the goddess of poison. He estimated that with her current state, he should be able to see her attributes. Goddess of Poison, Descent. Description: the appearance of the goddess of poison in the main world. Grade: Epic. Level: 100. Health points: 6 billion/6 billion. Attack: 260,000. Defense: 130,000. Skills: High-tier magic resistance, poison immunity, poison domain, aura of faith, God's oppression, God's weeping poison. At this moment, the goddess of poison's level had already dropped to epic. Li Cheng could also see her attributes. At the same time, some players who did not die also shared the goddess of poison's attributes into the chat box. When the others saw it, they immediately exploded. F***CK. 6 billion HP. Am I seeing things? This old witch is really ruthless. 130,000 defense, her skin's even thicker than the city wall. F***CK, according to the official information, even crown soldiers can't break through the defense. How are we going to fight this? I didn't realize this thing's actually a god. Oh my god, Netherworld's quest is too difficult, isn't it? Do you think Netherworld boss can defeat this goddess of poison? This is a god, not some random cat or dog. How long has it been since the game started? How can we defeat her? After reading the information about the goddess of poison, Li Cheng's eyes lit up. It seemed that her divine kingdom must be in chaos. It had consumed a large amount of divine power, causing her strength to drop to epic. 6 billion HP might be a huge amount in front of the other players, but in front of him, it was no different from paper. Li Cheng ordered, "Lilian, Luna, attack with all your strength." "Yes." The two heroines nodded solemnly. Although the one in front of them was an epic-grade enemy, this was a god. It was completely different. Lilian used the shadow of the mist to hide the retreat of the frost marksmen and to cover all the heavenly knights. The main force of this battle was still the heavenly knights who were invincible. Luna gently raised her slender arm and suddenly released her skill. The sky instantly darkened. A bright moon appeared in the sky, emitting cold light. In the dark, all the troops' attack and defense were increased by 100%. At the same time, her moon dance skill was activated. Luna entered the invisible state under the night sky. Other than Li Cheng, no one else could see her. At this moment, Luna's slender body danced nimbly under the moonlight. She was like an angel dancing gracefully, pleasing to the eye. Li Cheng also raised his hand and released a skill, Command Flame. The long spears in the hands of all the heavenly knights were instantly covered with flames. Their attacks turned into fire damage. After a series of operations, Li Cheng's combat strength was pulled to the maximum, reaching the peak. If this could not defeat the epic-grade goddess of poison, then he had no other way. With the help of various buffs, the attacks of each heavenly knight reached an extremely terrifying figure, reaching up to 39,000 and almost breaking the 40,000 mark. Even some divine weapons did not have such terrifying attributes. With the support of various powers, the aura of the heavenly knights became even more terrifying. Sensing the aura of the heavenly knights, the goddess of poison felt threatened. She quickly raised the staff in her hand. Without needing to cast a spell, countless terrifying high-level spell attacks were thrown at Li Cheng. However, it was useless. No matter what attacks hit the holy light shields, they did not have any effect. Seeing this, the goddess of poison could not help but roar, "Damn god of light!" At this moment, Lilian took advantage of the gap in the goddess of poison's composure. Her eyes focused and she shouted in a delicate voice, "Charge!" Dong, dong, dong. The engines of the mechanical war horses were instantly activated. In an instant, they reached their maximum horsepower. Ha! 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 Countless heavenly knights let out furious roars, leaving green after images in the air. -81. -81. -81. -81. Thousands of terrifying numbers appeared over the goddess of poison's head. Under Lilian's command, every single one of the heavenly knights charged at exactly 300 meters. In other words, the attack coefficient of their destructive attack was maxed out. Countless heavenly knights focused their fire, dealing close to 8 billion damage. In an instant, the goddess of poison's health bar was emptied. Her eyes, which were made of energy, were filled with disbelief. How was this possible? Her defense was more than 100,000. Even if she was a champion soldier, without any special skills, they would not be able to break through her defense. Unfortunately, no one would explain this to her. Under her shocked gaze, her body that had descended exploded. At the same time, the sound of the system notification rang in Li Cheng's ears. Chapter 50, Massive Reward, Moon Dance Believer. Ding, dong. You've killed the descended goddess of poison. You've obtained 1 billion experience points, 10 hero skill points, and 5 million contribution points. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained 10 trillion experience points, 10,000 hero skill points, and 50 million contribution points. World announcement. Player Netherworld has killed the descended goddess of poison. As the first player in the world to kill a god, you're hereby rewarded a mythical grade dazzling gift box and 100 million reputation points. Ding, dong. You've triggered a 10,000 times increase and obtained an immortal grade dazzling supreme gift box and 10 billion reputation points. Holy War announcement. Viscount Netherworld has successfully killed the descended goddess of poison. As a reward, all players participating in this mission will receive 10,000 contribution points from the Church of Light. Ding, dong. News of you killing the descended goddess of poison has spread throughout the entire continent. The initial favorability of the good camp has increased by 20 points, and the favorability of the Church of Poison has decreased by 200 points. A series of system notifications and world announcements made all the players dumbfounded. Oh my god, did Netherworld kill the goddess of poison? Didn't she have 6 billion HP just now? What's going on? Did he just insta-kill her? At Netherworld, are you sure you're not using cheats? That kind of insta-kill. Ha ha ha, I don't care if Netherworld boss is cheating or not. It's 10,000 contribution points. That's awesome. 10,000 contribution points. Let me see how many level 3 soldiers I can exchange for. Oh my god, it's only been a few days, and Netherworld boss has already killed a god. I'll hang out with you from now on. Ha ha ha, fortunately, I've always believed in Netherworld boss. My brother even despised him and didn't accept the quest. Now, his intestines are turning green with regret. I'm happy to see that. Li Cheng did not pay any attention to the players. At this moment, a familiar soft and pleasant voice rang in his ears. It was filled with incomparable shock and disbelief. You, really killed the goddess of poison? Li Cheng naturally knew who the owner of this voice was. It was his nominal goddess, the moon dance goddess Trelafani. It was fine if she did not speak, but when she did, Li Cheng could not help but roll his eyes at her. This goddess of his was not of any help at all. However, she was still his goddess in name. Li Cheng asked with concern, "How's your situation?" He did not forget that this goddess of his was being attacked by the goddess of poison in the kingdom of God. Trelafani replied, "The goddess of poison, that old witch, has given up on attacking my divine kingdom. Now I can finally catch my breath." Hearing this, Li Cheng nodded. In this wave, even if the goddess of poison did not die, her divine kingdom would definitely be greatly damaged. Under the attacks of many gods, even if it was not destroyed, she would definitely be on the run. Li Cheng could even imagine that those gods would pursue the goddess of poison endlessly. Then, Li Cheng seemed to have thought of something. He asked, "You can breathe now. Does that mean that you can contact your believers now?" "Yes." Trelafani nodded and did not hide anything. Hearing her affirmation, Li Cheng did not delay and said, "Let them all come to my territory. Don't worry, they won't have to worry about not getting to eat a full meal." No matter what, he was Trelafani's spokesperson. So what if he got some benefits? Trelafani's believers were at least level 5. Moreover, they were all devout believers of the moon dance goddess. As long as there were enough of them, they would be able to communicate with Trelafani and release divine spells. Divine spells had been released by the goddess of poison earlier just now. They were completely unreasonable and were countless times stronger than ordinary skills. Of course, Li Cheng also had his own selfish motives. If he could condense and strengthen their faith in the future, his path to godhood might be much easier. Trelafani was speechless. All the believers had gone to Li Cheng's territory. Wouldn't he become the sole commander? However, after thinking for a moment, she finally agreed. All right. Li Cheng was stunned. He originally thought that he would have to spend more time and effort to convince her, but he did not expect her to agree so readily. He thought for a moment and realized that it seemed that her favorability toward him was even higher than he had imagined. If that was really the case, he might be able to help her improve her strength even if he returned the favor. After chatting with Trelafani for a while, Li Cheng did not say anything more to her because she was in a hurry to contact her believers. He took the opportunity to count his gains. Even he himself did not expect that he could kill a god on the second day of the server opening. Although the goddess of poison had been weakened layer by layer, she was still a god no matter how weak she was. The reward for the first kill of a full-on god was naturally very rich. First of all, there was a huge amount of experience and contribution points. He gained a total of 50 billion contribution points. If there were some more, Li Cheng could go in exchange for the title of a count. The experience points he received were even more exaggerated. In this battle, Lilian's level had long reached level 40. She now needed to break through twice. For that to happen, she would need 100 hero breakthrough stones. She would also need to go to the Shadow World to undergo a special trial. In the Shadow World, there were all kinds of terrifying creatures. The most famous one was the Shadow Dragon, a creature that had merged with the Shadow World. It was undying and indestructible, and its strength was extremely terrifying. Countless immortals and true gods had died in its hands. Li Cheng's eyes flashed with all kinds of lights. If he wanted to go to the Shadow World, he had to make sufficient preparations. He could not let his guard down. He continued to count the system rewards. There were also 100,000 hero skill points. As the name implied, those were points for leveling up hero skills. Not only heroes but players' skill levels could also be increased. The higher the level of a hero, the higher the skill level, and the more hero skill points would be needed. Under normal circumstances, one could only obtain hero skill points after completing a very difficult hidden quest. In Tribe, the difficulty of leveling up hero skills was still very high, especially for SSS class heroes like Lilian and Luna. Until now, their skills were still stuck at the initial level 1. Toward these two female heroes, Li Cheng naturally would not be stingy. He would push their skill levels to the max.